We recently just celebrated GlowJob's 1-year anniversary, and we have so many new followers and listeners. So today's episode is basically
a reintroduction, a vibe check, and really just a reminder of why we do this in the first place.
So this is our Hi, it's nice to meet you again episode. Let's jump in.
Welcome to GlowJob, the beauty podcast that's more than skin deep. We're the only podcast to make you hotter and smarter.
So when we started GlowJob, we really just wanted to find a place where we can talk about beauty, kind of like how we talk about it offline.
We think about beauty in the context of the greater culture, of society, its impact in business, and our day-to-day lives and self-identity.
And like we always say, everybody has a relationship with their skin, whether they know it or not, because we all have skin.
So before GlowJob, all the beauty podcasts out there were run by industry folks. So we're talking beauty editors, industry veterans, not everyday consumers.
And when we say industry veterans, what this really means is like people that have been working in the industry, whether it be for a brand, for a magazine, and really just built this kind of career for them their entire lives. So they just have a little bit of a different view than we have, me and Sasa.
And because they come from within the industry, they have their own agendas, their own talk tracks. And quite frankly, a lot of the times it ends up feeling like a long form ad.
So in thinking about this past year, what was something that really just surprised you?
How hard it is to do a podcast. I'm not even joking.
Honestly, that's so fair. It's crazy. I mean, so much effort and work goes into making a podcast. Like the fun part about making a podcast is researching the stories, meeting new people, and obviously working together.
I know, it's my favorite part.
Yeah, but the unfun things are, figuring out lighting and microphone, editing. It's a lot.
It's so hard. Video editing is a beast. And I feel like we've learned so much in this past year. But even behind all of that too, like the operations of running a podcast is like a business.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we treat this like a business, I would say.
For sure. What surprised you the most about the podcast?
How hard it is to grow a social media account.
Oh my God, I know.
I mean, obviously we have our Instagram, but I don't know I feel like our long-term listeners do know of how many TikTok accounts we've had to go through. We are on our 3rd TikTok account, which is crazy. The other 2 got banned. I don't know why, but if you work at TikTok, please give us a call. We have questions.
I don't know how we got banned because we don't say anything like crazy.
I mean, we do say some crazy stuff, but nothing that goes against the terms and conditions.
I know. I mean, I've seen crazier stuff on TikTok. You have too.
Girl, same.
When was the first moment you realized that the pod's actually working?
For sure, the first time that someone came up to us and they were like, I know GlowJob. I listen to GlowJob. Like that was such a surreal feeling.
Yes. Honestly, still every time someone says that to us, I get so giddy inside.
I know. It makes me so happy. And it's like why we do this, right? Yeah. Somehow this has turned into a community, a true GlowJob fam. And along with that came so many new faces.
Okay, so let's rewind and let's talk about how we actually met because this comes up a lot when we meet people.
I know. I love telling our meet cute story, don't you?
It's so adorable.
All right, so we met a few years ago in Santa Monica because we had both decided to enroll in Esthetician School. We signed up at Santa Monica Community College and for our very first day of class. This is it's a hard to get into program, I would say, because for our first class, we were both waitlisted. And the teacher in the beginning, there are all these people standing around hoping to get into the class. And the teacher just says, I only have 2 available spots right now. And so the first person that was called was Sasa. She was so happy. I was so angry and jealous. But then the second person that they called was me. So I'm like, yes. And then obviously, since we were the last 2 admitted into the class, the only open seats were this like one chunk of desk with like 2 seats right next to each other. And that was it.
I know. And then we became friends. But I have to add a little bit of detail to this story.
Please.
Because, I remembered like day before class, the teacher sent an email and was like, bring all these things to class, be prepared. If you're on the wait list, like you need to follow all these rules. And it said, wear scrubs, wear the gray scrubs. And I'm like, okay, I really don't want to wear scrubs, but I'm going to wear the gray scrubs. And I packed my bag. I put all the things. I felt like the first day of school, like a kindergartner or a first grader. And I walk into the classroom and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to get my ass into this class. Like somehow I will be in this class. And I'm sitting and I see all the people piling in, everyone who's standing, filling the room. And then I see this girl walk in, just sauntering. And she's the only one not wearing gray scrubs. And she looks at me and she smiles. And I'm like, who is this girl not wearing scrubs? And she is not going to take my spot. And guess who it was? It was Julia, the only one not wearing scrubs.
I remember I did get that email, but I also remembered like, I'm not going to go out to Figs and buy scrubs or Amazon and like rush order some scrubs if I don't get into the class. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. That was so funny. Yeah, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was wearing. Probably just like something like this, the opposite of scrubs.
It's my favorite memory. I'm just so glad we both got into that class. So we meet in esthetician school. We soon start hanging out outside of school because we lived really close to each other back then, both in Santa Monica. We would get coffee and hang out. And then we would just always talk about our favorite obsession, which is beauty and skincare. And then over time, like we would look back through our text message thread. I mean, still to this day, it's like the same content, but like everything we would talk about was basically what GlowJob is.
Yes, it would be like, oh, look at this new product launch, or look at this weird marketing ploy that this company's doing, or what is this celebrity wearing? And it's kind of how it all ties together. And it was just such a natural transition from our text thread to the GlowJob episodes.
It is. And it wasn't even just about launches and product. Like you and I would talk about like, oh my gosh, did you see this company, this skincare line that is selling for like $500 million? Why is this brand failing, but this one's doing well? Like we were always so curious about every beauty headline.
But really, it was my favorite thing though. Like it really brought me so much joy to have these conversations. And then basically a light just kind of flipped on in our heads one day. Like, let's just do something with this.
Yes. Let's turn our text chain and our constant conversations about beauty into a real thing, a podcast.
There we go.
So let's talk about you and me. Let's properly introduce Julia. Who are you?
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Julia Bellery. I live in Santa Monica. I'm from California. And I feel like I'm basically a West Side girl through and through.
You are.
And next, let's do Sasa in a nutshell.
Hi, guys. My name is Sasa Lee. I live in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. I'm from New York, but I'm an East Coast transplant. And honestly, I feel like an East Sider through and through. East Side girl. East.
East Coast, East Side.
Yes.
And for those of you who aren't from Los Angeles, these whole terms, East Side, West Side, might not really mean anything to you. So let's break it down.
So let's start off with the East Side girl. Who is she? I feel like I'm equipped to describe this. Let's talk about vibes. She's opinionated, layered, and culturally fluent. The aesthetic is kind of like intentional chaos. Like it's put together, but not. And the core belief of the East Side girl is taste is identity. And we will tell you why.
Okay, so on the flip side, the West Side girl, it's not the total opposite, but when it comes to vibe, I feel like it's clean, airy, really optimized, and definitely like wellness forward. The aesthetic out here is effortless yet expensive, and really our core belief is if it's not serving you, should I be doing it?
So in terms of fashion, the East Side girl, she's probably going to be wearing a combo of like thrifted pieces mixed in with vintage designer. And she's definitely a little bit more grunge and a little bit more trendy.
That definitely tracks. But on the West Side, I feel like the overall vibe, it's a lot of neutral palettes, a lot of like slick back buns and matching sets. And I really, truly believe that West Siders feel like walking everywhere. Wellness walks is just a part of our identity.
So let's talk about the East Side girl and the beauty look. So in terms of makeup, clean girl is definitely in. That is like the only aesthetic, only makeup look girls do out here. Like you want to look like you just like woke up like this and you just are wearing this like crazy stylish outfit and your face is just clean and perfect. But that's definitely the vibe. Then when it comes to hair is like self-expression. It's always doing something, whether that be like micro bangs or like a shag or maybe like a mullet or a dyed hair look.
Or a digital perm.
Yes, or a digital perm. Your hair has got to do something. Other things that come to mind are like, okay, an East Side girl will try a trend ironically, but then accidentally fall in love with it. I've been guilty of this. They're into like mood, contrast, texture. It's all about the aesthetic. And skincare is paramount out here, but also, again, very vibes driven. Like it needs to look aesthetic on your shelf.
So in taking all of that into consideration, the West Side girl, on the other hand, when it comes to her beauty aesthetic, she loves a full glam moment. I think a misconception is that like West Side means that you're a beachy girl, like you live in Venice or Malibu. But no, the West Side girl, she loves a full glam. And when it comes to her hair, it's either going to be one of two styles. It's going to be a blowout. And when it's dirty, it's going to be in a slick back bun and nothing in between. You will not see any micro bangs on this side of the 405. And lastly, when it comes to skincare, I feel like for the most part, they try and keep it a little bit more minimal, but definitely in that camp of clinically perfect, right? They have their facialists on speed dial. They know what they're doing. They're kind of pros in that regard. So when you think about yourself, are you like 100% East Side girl?
Are we 100% anything ever in life? I don't know. I'm getting philosophical here. I would say I subscribe to about like 80% of what East Side girl is. Because honestly, the East Side of Los Angeles feels the most like New York City. So that vibe just kind of translates to me. What about you?
I feel like I am a West Side girl.
Yeah.
Through and through.
Oh, you are. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm textbook West Side. Whether it's like those athletic matching sets, like that's a very West Side look. Like that is me in my weekend attire, right? So I don't know. I like it though. We got a little yin and yang going on.
Yes, that's why this works, honestly. Since this is a beauty and business podcast, let's talk about what we do for work and what we actually do on a day-to-day basis.
I sometimes feel like I never actually know what my girlfriends do in their jobs. It's so important. I once watched this TikTok and it was this group of girlfriends that got together for like a girls' night and they were all tasked with putting together a PowerPoint presentation of what they do day to day. Because, you have the title and you know what company they work at, but it's nice knowing like what you actually do Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Sidebar. We need to do this as like a fun night out. I actually really want to do that.
PowerPoint. Yeah.
So what do you do, Julia?
Okay. So my current role, I work in marketing and business development for a professional skincare company called Lemieux. I feel like a lot of people don't love the term professional skincare, but what I mean in this sense is that we make products for estheticians, licensed skincare professionals, and obviously consumers as well. But what do I do day to day? I feel like that is sometimes a loaded question because every single day is totally different. But my main goal, like my goal in my job, like what I'm tasked to do is to find ways to make money, find ways to grow the business. And so it lets me be really creative, thinking about all of these different types of projects. So some of them can be like, okay, sure, very cut and dry. I need to go and meet clients and get new clients. That's like very sales, very classic biz dev. Sometimes it's partnerships. Sometimes it's throwing events together. Sometimes it's working with influencers and estheticians, putting together education programs. There are so many different ways in which you can kind of grow a business. So I love my job because it allows me to really just stretch and think and also learn a lot about skincare on the way. However, like if I tie it to like my overall background, I was not always in skincare. This is very new for me. I'm going into my second year in the industry in general. So, when we're talking about like beauty industry insiders at the beginning of the episode, I feel like that doesn't necessarily like apply here because prior to this, I have worked in tech my entire career, living in San Francisco, living in New York. And the one thing that does tie it together is that when I was working in tech, I was still always in the biz dev side. And so again, that mostly meant a lot of like sales. So I would work at big companies where I'd dress up in kind of like my office workwear and wine and dine clients, or I'd work at startups and small companies where I would wear ripped jeans and wine and dine clients. But I also did my own startup for a little bit. And so I feel like that kind of mentality, that startup mentality and being creative that's what I love. And that's what GlowJob is. Like it really allows us to kind of get into that mindset, okay, of like, what are the different things we can do to try and grow? So that's a bit about me. But Sasa, on the other hand, has a much different story. So Sasa, tell us about what you do for work and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So I am a private wealth advisor for work. So what that means is I manage personal wealth for entrepreneurs, C-suite executives, and family offices. In terms of like my actual day-to-day, it's like me looking at the financial markets always, and then talking to clients all the time. And when I'm talking to clients, it's like sometimes it's about, finance and what is going on in their accounts. And then the other time, honestly, I'm just talking to them about family and their life and whatever they're thinking. My job is half like markets driven and then half therapist, which I don't think a lot of people realize when you first hear that title, but it's very people driven.
Yes, because you're managing their money. It's a very personal thing.
Extremely. And because a lot of these folks are very, very wealthy, like these are the millionaires and billionaires of the world, it's really hard to crack into that world, first of all, and gain people's trust. So, by the way, before I started this job, I had zero connections. Like I didn't have any sort of like Rolodex of these rich people I could call up, which a lot of my colleagues did. And when I started in this industry, I was at Goldman Sachs. And at Goldman, the way their business operates is you eat what you kill, which is such a GS thing to say. It's very much like you have to build your own book and cold call people and like tap into daddy's, club friends and see if they'll become your clients. I had none of that. And so a lot of the beginning of my career in private wealth was cold calling. So I would have to like find rich people, which you guys is not that easy. And then I had to convince said rich person to work with me. Like there would be times I'd go into these meetings and they'd be like, why should I trust you? You're the same age as my deadbeat son. And I'd be like, sir, that is an excellent question. Let me tell you why you should trust me. But, early on in my career within private wealth, I had one mentor who told me you should cast a really wide net while you're looking for clients. But in the meantime, focus on one or two industries that you're really passionate about. And for me, it was easy because it was beauty. Like it's what I love to consume outside of work. It's what I love to talk to girlfriends about. And so in the beginning, some of my early clients were beauty founders. And that kind of just like started this whole love affair with the beauty industry because I got to see it from like a different side. But I did not start in finance, similarly to how Julia did not start in skincare. Before all of this, was a creative. So I was a costume designer. I went to design school for undergrad. I went to Parsons in the city. I had a huge background in tailoring. I actually had a specialty in traditional kimono design because I had studied before, learning how to produce kimono. And I, after college, was an independent costume designer. So I worked on TV, commercial, and film sets, doing wardrobe. I worked with a lot of entertainers, doing wardrobe for tour. I've worked with Kendrick Lamar, which was like such a fun project. I've worked with Little Dragon, St. Vincent. I've worked with a few actors on red carpet looks. And that was my entire life, where all I did was make clothes. I had 2 assistants, but I reached this point where I realized like, oh, I'm an art school kid and I'm actually running a full-on business, but like, I don't know how to do my books. Like, I don't know how to run a business. And I felt so ill-equipped, which is why I ended up going back to business school at NYU. And then from NYU, that's how I got into finance and I got roped in.
There you go. I mean, I love how like the backgrounds, they shift. Mm-hmm. And I love it because like for me, it was like 10 years in tech. And for you, like you basically have this entire life in fashion before finding finance. And that just goes to show like people have chapters, people are layered, right? Yes. And now this is their GlowJob era.
I know. And I think that's actually a really hopeful thing. And I think that's why we want to share this stuff with you guys is like, if you feel like you're stuck in the wrong career, do not fret because like Julia and I have lived many lives and it's okay. You can change and you can pivot at any point, but it's up to you. Like if you feel motivated to want change, you can do it.
Yes. So if that's, getting a new job, getting into a new industry, going back to school, like there are so many different ways that you can just set your life on a bit of a different path.
So when Julia and I met in esthetician school, one of the things that really gravitated us together was that we were I think the only people there who were doing that program part-time. Like we both had full-time jobs. And Julia was still in tech at that time. Obviously, I'm still in finance. We love beauty and aesthetics, and we're always talking about that offline, online, wherever we are. But I think something about that connection for us that like we both had these business world experiences. And we wanted to talk about beauty in a way that wasn't being portrayed in most media.
I feel like so many times when society thinks about women who are beauty obsessed, we often get pigeonholed or stereotyped as being really vapid or being really superficial or really stupid. But you know what? I am those things. I'm just kidding. We're not those things, right?
Not.
That is the whole point that we do GlowJob. Like you can like lip gloss and still like talking about billion-dollar transactions and how to scale companies, right? And things are not binary. And I feel like, for me at least, I've always considered myself to be a hyper feminine person that would always work until now that I'm in skincare, but would always work in more hyper masculine fields. And I know that you feel that. Working in finance. But it's always kind of something that I've wanted to lean into. And I feel like GlowJob is like, it's a perfect venue or vehicle for us to do that, to be able to have these hot and smart conversations.
Here's a good analogy for you guys. Like for men, when two men meet each other, let's say they're strangers, in my experience, they usually always gravitate towards one topic, and that is sports. They have a shared language. They'll be like, oh, did you see that game last night? Like, check out those stats. That's how many yards. Clearly, I know nothing about sports, but they say these words, right? And that's how they bond. For women, we don't necessarily have this like go-to vernacular, but what Julia and I have noticed is that when we meet new people, new girls, and we talk about beauty or we talk about GlowJob and what we do, every girl wants to join the conversation, and that's our shared language. But we're talking about beauty in a way that, again, elevates us. We're here to make you hotter and smarter. You can talk about beauty in a way that isn't just skin deep.
Exactly. And I feel like so many women, when you think about beauty and having those conversations, there's like this whole notion of like, oh, we need to gatekeep, or oh, it needs to be secretive. But it really doesn't. It should be shared. And as we talk to people and meet founders, or just like people at events or people online, right? They really do want to share what they're using, how they think about it, how that kind of plays in the larger cultural landscape. Because I don't know, how many articles have we read about how lipstick is political, how beauty is political. Everything does have like a larger role here. And that's what we're trying to dive into.
So our goal with GlowJob has always been to make you guys hotter and smarter. So this means sharing the stories about the people, the science, the products, all the things that shape the beauty industry.
And so the way that we do this is that we have 2 episodes. Again, our long-term listeners already know this, but every Monday we have a news roundup. And this is where we take all of the biggest news stories of the week as they relate to beauty, business, and pop culture. And we just do a quick, straightforward summary of all of these stories and the things you might have missed. And Thursdays are
Chit Chats. These are our deep dive episodes. So this will either be an interview with a specific expert, or Julie and I will go deep on a topic. So these topics might be on the science of skincare, like our episode of how GLP-1s are affecting beauty. It could be a trend, like a Republican makeup episode, or it could be on the history of a brand, like our rise and fall of Estee Lauder episode.
And really, GlowJob exists because this industry in general, it's really loud, but it's not always honest. And this is really because so much content out there is either sponsored,
wildly misinformed,
or basically just pretending that beauty exists in a vacuum.
So now that you've gotten to know a little bit about us and more about GlowJob, let's talk about the dynamic that we have.
Because if you've been listening long enough, sometimes it might be kind of hard to tell who is who. So let's play a little game.
So who's nicer? Which one's the angel and which one's the devil?
So I think that initial appearance on the surface, I might seem nicer because it's this West Side facade, and Sasa might seem a little more intense with the New York, but I think under the surface, maybe I'm the devil. What do you think?
Oh, I love this so much because I think it might be true. But that's why I love it so much. You guys, Julia is so funny. And she's also evil inside too, which is why I love her. But you know what? I think we all are capable of being the devil and the angel. And sometimes you and I play off of each other. One day I'm the angel and you're the devil. And then one day you're the angel and I'm the devil.
Oh, 100%. How many calls have we been on where we have to be good cop, bad cop?
All the time. And it switches all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the topic of angel versus devil, who do we think is more hot-headed? So in this sense, sweet versus spicy.
Oh, I think this is very easy. I'm definitely the spicy one. I'm more of the hothead.
Sasa is the spicy one, 100%.
Okay, but who's funnier?
Is it bad if I say me? I'm just kidding. We're both funny. But I think a lot of times my humor, I don't know if it always comes across in the episodes. I wish it did, but like my humor can often be a little dark.
Yeah.
And luckily, that is also Sasa's humor of taste or, preferred sense of humor. So it works out.
I love it.
All right, now let's reel it in. Who is more serious?
I think we're both serious, but different ways. Does that make sense?
I think we play off each other really well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, let's say we're doing an interview with someone, right? Like sometimes when we want to get serious with a guest and you're getting serious with a guest, we want to get the answers out of them, right? Like you have to be, again, the bad cop and get to like the tell me why you did this. And I will be the good cop and just be like, yes, so we can smile about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like we do a lot of that, but I feel like you're good at being really serious.
Okay, yeah, so maybe I am a little bit more serious.
And our last question is, who is more of a conspiracy theorist?
Oh my God. Are either of us conspiracy theorists? What's the last conspiracy we've shared with each other?
I think the last conspiracy we had was that the team behind Marty Supreme forced HBO to launch Mad Men.
Yes.
So people would be thinking of the 50s and 60s.
You know what? Since you brought up that one, you are the conspiracy theorist.
I'll take it.
But you know what? I love a good conspiracy. It's just fun.
Oh, it's fun. I feel like if you like podcasts and conspiracy theories kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, for sure.
Even if it's a beauty podcast. Who's more dramatic?
Dramatic? Oh my God.
Could it be you?
Do you think I am?
Sometimes, yes.
Really?
I think facial expressions wise.
Oh, yeah.
Like we know a ton of our listeners, they listen to the podcast, right? But Sasa is a queen of the most dramatic eye roll you have ever seen in your life. Like it is crazy. I've never seen that. Like I didn't know it was humanly possible.
Wait, this kills me because I've had an ex-boyfriend who during fights, I would roll my eyes and he would look at me and go, Sasa, you have the world's most dramatic eye roll in the entire world. But yes, my eye roll is iconic. So as you guys can tell, we're pretty different, but we're also kind of similar in a lot of ways.
Definitely. And I think one of the first and probably the most important and the most bonding for us is that we truly have like a shared ethos and way of thinking about skincare. And what that really means is that we are science first, packaging later.
And we know it's so hard for most people to cut through all the noise that's out there in beauty because like a lot of beauty is about looks first. You're seeing the packaging, you're seeing the ads.
We've talked about misinformation, but it's actually crazy. And yes, Sasa and I, we're not medical doctors, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't read medical reports or that we don't understand how certain chemicals react within our skin. I feel like under us loving that stuff is kind of also a superpower that we are able to add to the podcast because we do know how the skin functions and we do know the role of all of these different ingredients. And if we don't, then we go research it and then bring it to you guys.
We do so much research, by the way, like whether it be for our own individual episodes or an interview with an expert. Like when we have experts on, Julie and I are like, okay, buckle down. We need to learn everything about this topic so we don't sound dumb when we're talking to them. And on the topic of research, we love facts and receipts. We will always come to you guys with all of the details and make sure that we're sharing the best information possible before it goes out to you.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, it's not just being able to provide, like, whether it's the numbers or the stats behind something, but if things change, right? Like, we do a news roundup every single Monday. Obviously, the news changes. If things change, we tell you the updates, right? It's not like a one and done type of situation here. And lastly, I gotta say that one of the things we definitely have in common is just a shared love for piping hot tea.
That's kind of why I love doing the news roundup, because it's not only beauty and business, but it's pop culture and how pop culture is a part of the greater picture of society.
Yes, we all need to know what's happening between Brooklyn and Victoria Beckham right now.
It impacts the world economy.
Honestly, it does. It does.
And so as we head into year 2 of GlowJob, let's talk about what is next.
So we're talking new episodes, bigger guests,
more cultural commentary, and more unhinged but educational moments. So this podcast only exists because people like you share, listen, and interact with us.
So consider this the official reintroduction.
Welcome to GlowJob,
the only podcast to make you hotter and smarter.
All right, guys, let's jump into our very first AMA of season 2. So these are questions that we got from you guys, our listeners. Some of these are anonymous and some of them you guys shared who you are, but let's jump in.
The first question is, how do you two stay friends and also work together?
A lot of love. No. Honestly, I think that Julia and I balance each other out really well, and that like we're so different. Like personality-wise, we are very different. I think interest-wise, like we have a lot of overlap, but also a lot of different things. And so when we come together, it honestly is like putting the yin and the yang together. So we kind of fit perfectly in this little circle. And it's a benefit that we have such a strong friendship because we're able to be really candid with each other and talk to each other. And we have like a personal bond. But at the same time, because we have different points of views, it actually ends up balancing out almost any discussion we have.
Definitely. And I think that, it's definitely true that you cannot work with all of your friends. But some of the things that we did early on to starting GlowJob was having a lot of really open conversations about things like, what are our expectations, right? Like, how long are we going to do GlowJob for example? How many hours are we going to commit to GlowJob? Who is going to be responsible for what? And so, whether it's starting a podcast or any other venture, if you are going to have a partner, it really is important to have these conversations first and then also be open enough to talk about it if things change, right? Like if your attitudes change, if your emotions change, if your feelings change, like being able to be transparent about that is definitely the key to, making it work.
All right, our next question. How do you stop freaking out about working a corporate 9-to-5 for the rest of your life?
Honestly, you have to get over it. Sadly, we live in this world where capitalism runs everything and you do need money in order to survive. And so you're going to have to do things like work. However, if you really are determined to break out of that cycle, I would never recommend someone like go and start living off the grid and, trying to make that work. But that is honestly going to be a very, very, very difficult life. But if you really want to break out of it, like do something different, right? Like take your spare time, take hours out of your day and like nurture a hobby that can turn into a project that could turn into a potential job for yourself.
When I think about the fear that a lot of people have about a desk or office job, I think about something that the head of M&A at L'Oreal said, Ali Goldstein. And she said, work is not jail. And I think about that sentence all the time. I think that a lot of the time our fear comes from the fact that we have this preconceived notion or a fixed mindset about how we're framing it. And so if you think about work or your corporate 9-to-5 as jail, you're always going to dread it for the rest of your life. But if you reframe it and think about like, okay, how can I take this corporate 9-to-5 and make this work for me and work to my benefit? So one way of doing that could be like, you know what? I have this corporate job. It pays my bills. It allows me flexibility. It allows me to have a roof over my head, food on my table, clothes on my back. And it also allows me to have, like Julia said, hobbies that I can develop in my free time to work on as a project that I can eventually scale and maybe make into my own business so I can be my own boss. So I think the first step in getting out of this like fear cycle is realizing work is not jail. It can be your golden ticket and like the way to propel yourself into something bigger and honestly better for you in the future.
Next, we have a special question from Ms. Sasa. But Sasa, are you single? What are you looking for?
Yes, technically I am single. I am very much of the belief that I am a free agent until there's a ring on this finger. So, single right now. What am I looking for? Gosh, I think I'm looking for a partner in life, first and foremost, but a partner who is secure in themselves and grounded in who they are. And so what I mean by that is they're not searching for themselves. They're not trying to figure out like, who am I? What's my next career move? What do I want? I want somebody who knows what they want from life and is working towards those goals in a similar way to me. I think when I was younger, I had a lot more, let's call it flexibility in terms of like who I was willing to be with. But I have been in a place in my life lately where I am the most confident in just myself, my career, my day-to-day life. Like I feel good. And so I want to find someone who can meet me where I'm at. There are so many people in this world and I don't really subscribe to the belief that there's only one person for you. I think that you can actually match and build a life with a lot of different people, but it ultimately comes down to like what you're willing to work with at that time. But I've had a mentor once tell me that, when you're getting to know somebody, you want to see everything and you want to get to know them, see all the things. But once you've decided to be with that person, you want to see a little bit less. Like you don't want to have to pick on everything that they do. You try to ignore those little things because you're trying to make a life work with that person. And so right now I'm in that phase of where like I'm seeing everything, looking at everything. And I can't wait till I find the person where I'm like, you know what, now I want you. And then I'll start seeing less. Next question. It's for you, Julia. What's the hardest part about being married?
At this point, I have been married for going on 4 years this year. And the hardest part about being married is it's so different from dating. When you're dating, you're still always like very much yourself, you're your own person. But when you get married, you really start, truly feeling like your partner is a part of your life and factoring them into everything. It's so different from dating in that regard, if that makes sense, right? Like when it comes to dealing with families or making decisions, you really do factor in your husband and their point of view and what matters to them just as much because, at the end of the day, like, they are your family now. So kind of getting over that mindset switch between like boyfriend and husband has been really fun to navigate. Next, I love this question, but what is the craziest beauty brand gossip you have ever heard?
There has been this crazy amount of speculation around Peter Thomas Roth and the Epstein files. And what makes it even more wild is the fact that we had Ryan Roth on the pod just a couple weeks ago. So basically the gossip here, and again, this is all very speculative right now, but Peter Thomas Roth appeared in the Epstein files 50 times, and they had sustained correspondence up until 2018. Peter Thomas Roth put out a statement on the brand's website and Instagram saying that he had a relationship with Epstein because he was his physics teacher back in high school when he was at Dalton, and that they just became friends and stayed friends throughout the years, but, weren't that close. However, a lot of the correspondence in the email files that have been released kind of ran contrary to that statement. And so it's been the most wild thing for me, at least in beauty.
Yeah. And it's not just like what actually happened, but it's kind of like what other people are saying around the fact. And this is why, like, whenever the word gossip is used, like, I always want to be cognizant of like misinformation and, playing at that camp. But, I've seen the craziest gossip about Peter Thomas Roth here, right? That like when he was donating the product to Jeffrey Epstein, that the product was like for the girls, right? And that also he was like teaching the girls how to use skincare product and like keeping them stocked up and all those things. But, again, definitely is in the camp of gossip. But another story that I've heard of, and we're still seeing this actually get battled out in court right now, but it's Sol de Janeiro suing Emco Beauty. So obviously they have this huge dispute over dupes and Emco Beauty duping, Sol de Janeiro scents and their packaging and their marketing schemes. But some of the gossip that I really have been finding interesting is that Sol de Janeiro is also suing them for allegedly paying influencers to make dupe content on their behalf. So paying influencers and giving them these briefs that say, I found the perfect dupe for Sol de Janeiro. Like, obviously that is something a brand should never, ever, ever do. But, in this situation, Sol de Janeiro is accusing them of doing this.
And our last AMA question, what advice would you give to a 21-year-old guy about to be promoted to a manager at Ulta from a Mac counter who's trying to break into the beauty space and propel his career?
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations. That promotion is extremely exciting. And, we've actually had quite a few people on the podcast that had similar career trajectories to kind of what you're talking about. We had Steve Kasajikian, who's a global artistry director of Urban Decay. He went from working at a counter to eventually working in-house at Urban Decay. We also had the global director of Fenty Beauty come on. She's another makeup artist. And she also started off working at MAC and then going in-house into Fenty. And soon we're actually going to have Melissa Shaven come on, and she started her career at the Revlon counter way back in the day in New York, and she worked her way up going from the finance side to the beauty side, and she's now been CEO of multiple different beauty brands including Aramore. My first bit of advice would be to really focus and concentrate on networking. Especially now that you're a manager, you are going to meet so many different people. You're going to be in contact with so many different brands, so many different reps, so many different educators, and it's going to be really important for you to not only meet these people and remember these people, but stay in contact with them. Because eventually over time, as they're in your network more and more, they're going to be the ones that can help open up job opportunities for you, especially when you see a career opening at an in-house brand. They can be the one to refer you, for example.
Echoing that sentiment of networking, not only should you just be thinking about, okay, like I want to meet this person, I want to talk to this person. It's a lot about relationship building. So it's not just about like meeting them, saying hi, and then that's it. It's maintaining that relationship over the years. So whether that be an email check-in or grabbing coffee with them, just being in front of folks that you want to stay within their network. But in tandem to that, you should also be mapping out where you want to see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, and then work backwards from there. So let's say right now you're a manager at Ulta and your goal is to be in-house at XYZ brand. Think about what steps you need to do in order to reach that, and you map it out. And first it starts with, like getting to know folks at said brand, or getting to know more people within a certain sector of the industry, whether that's within education, or if that's within artistry, or if that's within marketing. Doing everything you can to set yourself up for success early on will pay off in the long term.
Yes. And my last piece of advice, and I think this applies to anybody at any career in any industry, is that it's not going to be that LinkedIn job description and job application that's going to get you where you want to go. I actually worked at LinkedIn for a little bit, like way back in the day. And it is actually crazy how bad that app can be at screening people for jobs and actually getting the right candidates into the doors. The best thing that you can do is focus on your network, who they know, who that person knows. Applying for a job just because you see an opening is not going to be enough. But what is going to make the difference is those relationships.
Okay, that's a wrap on our AMA questions. You guys, just to let you know, you guys can enter an AMA question, ask me anything at any point by going to www.glowjobpodcast.com/AMA.
And if you're feeling a little extra spicy, you can always slide into our DMs and ask us anything.
All right, thanks guys. And we'll see you next week, every Monday and every Thursday.
Bye.